Hello everyone and welcome to SkShadow. Welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, and this time we are doing the United States Grand Prix. So as you can see, we've got a few days to plan some activities, so I just do the normal ones that give our driver slightly better stats and then also give the driver and team a little bit of a claim. You can see that I have fully protected both departments now. From the upcoming regulation changes, so we won't have any issues going into next season, which is definitely going to help a lot. In driver and constructor standings, we are 7th and 6th, and we haven't had a points finish since our podium in Singapore, so getting one would be nice. However, weather forecast wise, you can see qualifying is dry, but the race is going to be wet. At the beginning, it's supposedly going to dry out afterwards, but yeah, we're going to have to be careful there because it is going to be wet initially. You can see performance wise we have just about managed to get ahead of Haas now, because we did have an upgrade coming in to this session, so we are now slightly above Haas and slightly below Alfa Romeo. So we will now move on to qualifying. So we are into qualifying now, and we will go out for our first lap of the US Grand Prix. And well, qualifying is even more important this time round, simply because it's going to be a wet race to begin with, so chances are we're probably going to lose a couple of positions on the start, because the AI are generally pretty good at starting in the wet. But on top of that, it's going to be very, very difficult to overtake in the wet until we transition to dry, so we're going to have a lot less chance to try and get past people, because as I'm sure you've noticed, a lot of our initial passes are on the first lap, but in the wet that is not going to be particularly easy. So we go around the final corner now, hit the DRS and cross the line with a 132.793, which sets us 16th for the time being, below Lance Stroll, who did a 32.740. So very, very close there. You can see that we've definitely got a bit of time to make up in sectors 2 and sector 1, especially sector 2, but we are a fair bit quicker in sector 3. So with that in mind, we do go out for another lap and see if we can improve somewhat. As you can see, go into the first corner, into the first heavy braking zone, lock up a little bit, but doesn't really matter too much because we're actually already about 2.5 temps up. So clearly locking up into that first corner seems to be the quickest way of doing it. But going through these S sections there, we keep a little bit more speed than last time, and you can see going into the back straight, we are about 5 temps up now. So looking like we should be on for a pretty good run here. As we hit the DRS, we are still about 5.7 temps up, and then crossing the line, we are about 7 temps up, and that puts us P13, so solidly into Q2 there. Our teammate Lance did a 133.165, so he is down in 19th, below one of the Alphas and one of the Haas, but ahead of one of the Alphas, so not terrible for him. But we actually managed to finish ahead of Vettel in the Ferrari, so I don't know what happened there. But yeah, we will move on to Q2. And moving into Q2, I did notice that for some reason Alexander Albon has been disqualified from Q2. So it means that the lowest we can finish is 15th. And as you can see, after my first run, I did a 132.9, which is very slow compared to our Q1 effort. But you can see Albon parked in a dangerous location, which is why he got disqualified there. Not sure about that one, but this is our second run in Q2 after our pretty dreadful first run, about 9 temps slower than our fastest Q1 time. You can see going onto the back straight, we lose a little bit of speed there. Could definitely have gone faster, but crossing the line about 6 temps up with a 132.3, I think that was, and that puts us 14th, so ahead of both Haas's, ahead of both Alfa Romeos, ahead of our teammate, ahead of the Williams, and then ahead of Albon, who is disqualified. So pretty much where we should be, which should set us quite good going into the race.
Here we are then in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin, in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself 14 miles southeast of the city centre and home to the US Grand Prix since 2012. The latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. We have 10 turns to the left and 10 to the right here at the fantastic Circuit of the Americas. Overtaking opportunities into turns 1 and 12 at this anti-clockwise 3.6 mile track. But we may well see cars struggle to slow down there today as the wet weather does interfere with the low-speed grip. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, Sebastian Vettel and Sainz, Norris, Perez, Grosjean and the engineer, Russell, Albon, Kevin Magnussen and Giovinazzi. Gasly, they've taken a grid penalty. Raikkonen, Esteban Ocon and Callum Islands, Ricciardo, Latifi, Kvyat and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
As you can see, we have been promoted up into P10 because a load of people got penalties, including our teammate, who is going to be starting last. But P10 for us, we're already in the points, so very much off to a good start. Things suggests inters to inters, but that's not going to happen because it is going to dry up. As you can see, I put my front wing aero up a little bit just because it is raining. Try and give us a little bit more grip. But we are on to the race start now, and it's 5 lights out and away we go. Very slow start for everyone as it is raining, and you can see we are going to the left of Grosjean here and we smash into him. We lose our wing. We're spun around and you can see there's a huge train behind us of people that have stopped, and there's a safety car. Sainz is out of the session, and yeah, that was so is Magnussen out of session. This is the view of Perez. You see he goes into the McLaren, which moves him over to the left, and because we were coming up along the side of him, we end up going into him. And you can see that is one of the Alfa Romeos getting absolutely punted from behind and just smacking into the McLaren, which then smacks into us. But we take a dive into the pits to get a new front wing. So this is going to be a very long pit stop. Switching out for a new set of inters and a new front wing, which is going to take a while. 7.2 seconds in total. Latifi has a 5-second penalty as well for some reason. Maybe collision, ignoring yellow flags, he normally is. And we feed out, accidentally crossed the line because you can't see anything in this weather. But we feed out in P16 in the end after starting P10, which is a big shame. I mean, thankfully there is a safety car, which means that we're going to bunch up behind the pack as we do here. Behind Perez, actually, the car we actually hit, as we have to avoid hitting him again as they brake very, very sharply under safety car. But we have caught up with the queue. We've got Perez and Albon ahead and Norris and Giovinazzi behind. So I don't think we're going to be catching up with the two ahead anytime soon.
3.3 seconds. They're on fresh inters. They're in 10th. The time last lap was a 2:13.2.
And you can hear Jeff telling us our teammate is exactly where we started, in 10th. So this is the restart here. You see Norris is trying to go for a move down our inside there. We just about keep it. And he just sort of disappears. He's completely gone. As you can see on the map, he is very, very slow, as we almost lose it on this this rather wet track. But I think he had an issue, and we're going to find out. There we go. Lando Norris is out of the session. So just as he was probably about to overtake us, his engine blows up. So yeah, not great for him, but good for us. So we've got Perez and Albon ahead still, but they're like over a second. And then behind us is Giovinazzi and Latifi. Although you got the guys ahead are fighting, and we try to capitalise on that. Very, very close to the rear of Perez there, but not enough to make a move. You did hear Jeff telling us that the rain is going to stop in about 5 minutes, apparently. So we should be able to put on a nice set of dry tyres, maybe the mediums, to get us to the end of the race, or even the hards. Who knows what strategy we'll do.
It's not a perfect situation, but I don't think we have cause to move on to a different tyre yet.
Here Jeff telling us that it's not time to go onto a different tyre yet. Somehow we are managing to stick with the pace of Prez and Albon. I mean, the AI generally, unlike in F1 2019, are quite slow as we go for a dive bomb on Prez, and we actually do make the move stick, and we managed to not lose any wing there. I'd say that was a bit of a racing incident there. Another bit of contact with the racing point. Not as bad as our first contact though, but we do manage to stay ahead of Prez for the time being, which means it is Albon who is being held up by the Alfa Romeo Raikkonen up ahead. So that's why they're quite slow. Not because we are fast, but because they're being held up by an Alfa Romeo. And as you have seen, in the wet, it is pretty difficult to overtake, although we do have a strategy for lap 9 going in for mediums. However, I didn't read that properly and ended up coming in that lap, which was lap 8. And you'll see why that is a big issue in a moment, because that's when Stroll was coming in, and he also had an 8-second penalty to serve, which just destroyed our strategy there. So we're going on to hards. We're going to try and make it last the whole race. It looks like the majority of other people were going on to hards as well. A couple of guys on softs for some reason. But yeah, we had a very, very slow pit stop there. Somehow still ahead of Prez though. Maybe he had a slow one as well. But yeah, we've got Raikkonen and Latifi ahead of us. However, Latifi is on softs, so chances are he's going to be having to come in to pit again, possibly for another set of softs, maybe mediums. As you see, we're going completely off the track, trying to find the limits of grip here, because it's not fully dry at that point. Sorry if you can hear loads of helicopter noise. For some reason, the game glitched, and the helicopter that goes across that does the TV camera was very, very loud in this when it turned to dry. Don't know why. You can see behind us, Ocon has a 3-second penalty. So even if he gets ahead of us, that's not going to be that big of an issue. The aim for us now is to just try and close down on Raikkonen. As you can see, we already have. Almost losing it there, but we are well within DRS zone here. So we use the DRS, we chuck on all the overtake we can, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough to go for a dive bomb. Just about. No, not quite. So we're going to have to try and stick with him all the way through these S's of the US, and hopefully be able to get past him in the back straight would be the idea. See, up ahead our teammate's got another penalty, a 3-second penalty for some reason, but this is the back straight, and you can see we move on to the outside of Raikkonen there and make the move quite easily. And ahead of us is our friend Lance Stroll. Like I was saying, he does have a 3-second penalty, so even if we don't get past him on track, assuming we stay within 3 seconds of him, which I'm certain we will gain that position anyway. Obviously, ahead of him is Latifi on the softs. I think there are a couple more people up ahead that are also on softs, so we're going to gain those positions as well. But on lap 16, we have the DRS, we have the overtake, we have the rich. We go down the inside of Lance Stroll and make the move very easily, way before the braking zone. So no issues for us there. Ahead of Latifi, you can see Ricciardo is 8 seconds ahead of us now, and he's also on the hards. So pretty much in P13, other than the guys on the softs coming into the pits, we are probably not going to gain any more positions. So chances are we're probably going to end this race anywhere between 13th and 10th. If we can get points, that would be absolutely fantastic. As you can see on lap 18, we're already setting green sectors in sector 1, and we have lost Stroll behind us. He's about 2.4 seconds. He's got Perez to try and fend off, which is good for us. The longer he can defend from Perez, the longer we've got to not get overtaken by him, because obviously the racing point is a much, much faster car. And going into this DRS zone, we might be able to overtake Latifi. However, we don't even have to bother trying because he dives into the pits to go for his second stop of the race. That'll be. See, Russell ahead in the Haas is also on softs. So that puts us in P12 for the time being. But we will move up to P11 once Russell comes in, because I'm almost certain he's not going to be making those softs last the entire race. No, there you go. So Russell and the teammate of Latifi in the Williams, Ilott, also went onto the softs. So both Williams on a soft strategy, which puts us so far into P10, which we've got another 8 laps to keep it. I mean, we're not going to get overtaken by Stroll, that's certain. But I reckon there's going to be a bit of a battle between us and Perez near the end, depending on how long Stroll can actually fend him off for. You can see we're just skipping forward a little bit, pretty much just showing you that not a huge amount happens for the next few laps. It's just us losing time or keeping pace, really, with Ricciardo, but nowhere near him. So we can go very deep onto that corner there. And then behind us, Stroll just keeping Perez behind him for as long as he can. It'd be nice if he's able to keep him behind for the rest of the time, but you can see, skipping to lap 25, Perez has managed to make the move on Stroll, and he is already within 2.5 seconds of us. Stroll's all the way back in 5 seconds now, plus his 3-second penalty, so he's going to finish very far behind, perhaps even last, depending on how far people are behind him. You can see our tyres are already on like 50-something%, and we've still got another 2 laps, so we're going to be holding on to these tyres for dear life. But lap 27, Perez is within DRS zone of us now, so we've got about a lap and a half to defend for our lives, effectively. So we actually managed to set a green sector 1 on these very, very worn hards, so you can see just how hard I'm pushing it to keep this Racing Point behind, as he tries to go for a dive round our outside, but we managed to outbrake and keep it. And this is the last lap now, going around the S section. He's 2 tenths behind us, so very close. It's going to be an absolute dash to the line, especially as we've got another DRS zone. But here we go, crossing the line on lap 28, and we do manage to hold on to P10. We managed to keep the Racing Point behind us, and we get our first points finish since our podium in Singapore, albeit only 1 point, but 1 point is more than none at the end of the day. You see Hamilton won the race, Verstappen actually second when he was third on the grid, so pretty good result from him, and then the 2 Ferraris slotting in right behind. You see our best was a 136.4, which the guys around us did a 136.0, so you can see just how off the pace we were in that sense. But yeah, and then our teammate Lance Stroll, after his penalties, ended up P16 with a best of a 137.1, so not very good showing from him. But overall, a pretty good result for us. We gained a point, which keeps us 7th in the driver standings, and also keeps us 6th in the constructors standings for the time being. However, only 1 point ahead of the AlphaTauri. So going into these last 2 races, it is still all to play for in terms of the constructors standings.